Hey everyone, okay, so today's video is a slightly different one and it is on the topic of sleep issues and insomnia. Now in this video, I'm going to be interviewing Joseph Pennell, and Joseph is a best-selling author. He does one-on-one consultations and therapy for people with sleep issues like myself. That's how I found Joseph. I found his book on Amazon. I actually downloaded the Audible version of it and then decided to have one-on-one therapy with him, which was done over online. It was done via Zoom and things like that. And it was and is incredibly helpful. Throughout this interview, I'll be interviewing Joseph, but also you can hear a little bit about the troubles that I've had with my sleep as well throughout. There is a little bit of muffleness in this video where I'm asking some questions, so hopefully I can deal with that with some text on the screen. But I really hope you find this video interesting. Sleep is something that we all do, and a huge amount of us, up to 40% of the population, has sleep issues, mine included, and it is no fun, and there is help available and it can be sorted and you can sleep like a normal person. So I hope you enjoy this interview. All the information on Joseph, his incredible book, the audiobook, and of course one-on-one consultations are all available in the description bar. And it's worth noting that, again, I'm not affiliated with Joseph in any way, shape or form. I found him via his book and then decided to book him for therapy and bring him here on this channel to hopefully help all of you who are suffering with your sleep. So enjoy the interview.
Hi, I'm Joe. I helped Wayne sleep about 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? Yeah, so I help people who have insomnia, but not with the normal sleep hygiene nonsense that everyone tends to know, and that's the only thing that people tend to hear because there's so much misinformation around sleep. So I had my own chronic insomnia for 20 years, and during that time, so it started for me when I was 14, started how I see it develop with most people. So I had a couple of poor nights of sleep, became very anxious, very stressed about those poor nights of sleep, and then I started thinking, well, what can I do to try and fix it? Started sleeping late, started trying to go to bed early, completely changed my habits and behaviours around sleep within about a week or so. Became more stressed, more anxious, more worried around sleep, and then it just spiraled out of control from there. So very quickly I developed incredibly ritualistic, obsessive behaviours around it. Started eating kiwi fruits before bed, warm baths, supplements, and by the end of the 20 years it had completely taken over and stripped my entire life, because I had literally 1,000 things to try and make myself sleep, 1,000 things to try and force myself to sleep, spending 14 hours in bed each night. Moved to America to live in a teepee because once I'd stayed in a tent in the UK and slept really well in it, and then I thought I had to move to America to live in a teepee for the rest of my life to sleep. Of course it didn't work, but that's kind of how obsessive the focus around sleep and insomnia can get, and eventually it left me out of business, depressed and living in a van. So it wasn't a very nice story, but I'm through it now. Got help from an amazing sleep physiologist using evidence-based techniques, which is what I now teach people. Now work with sleep charity, Manor Helpline, and published a book on insomnia, which is where you found me from. Yeah. And yeah, help probably thousands of people sleep now. So
do you find that a lot of people with sleep issues have ritualistic tendencies or things that they do every night in order to try to sleep that don't work, but they still keep going?
Incredibly, I'd say everyone. I'm not even going to every single person. So their start, it always develops the same way. So the trigger, it really doesn't matter. So people will think, oh, I've got insomnia because I've got anxiety or depression, PTSD, I'm going through the menopause, or they're going for a stressful time or they think they drink too much caffeine, or they exercise before bed. But insomnia, it's worry, it's stress driven, it's the brain learning a new pattern of sleep, which I'm going to hopefully talk about a little bit later on. But the obsessive ritualist behaviours, everyone starts to do it because they become so focused around sleep, hyper aware around it, and because there's so little information out there, they think, well, I've got to eat kiwi fruit before bed because I've heard that it contains serotonin, which then converts to melatonin, so I've got to have that before bed. I've got to have warm baths before bed because I saw that on a Michael Mosley documentary, so I need to have warm baths before bed. And I can't drink caffeine after 3 p.m. and I can't exercise before bed, and I can't eat late in a restaurant, I can't stay in a hotel. And it just starts stripping and taking away people's entire life, and then it just causes so much focus on it. So 80% of what I do is getting people to let go of these ritualistic behaviours because they are not helpful in any way, shape or form. But people, I think they become so worried that if they stop doing them, it's going to make it worse. So they say to themselves, oh, I ate a kiwi fruit last night and I slept well last night, so now I need to eat a kiwi fruit every single night before bed. And then that will stop working, and then they're saying, well, okay, it did work before, so now I need to have warm baths before bed to add to the kiwi fruits. And yeah, it's just so common, and this is what drives and perpetuates it. Yeah.
So what causes insomnia?
So I sort of touched on it earlier with these obsessive ritualistic behaviours people do, but that's more, that sort of adds to, so the trigger, as I said earlier, doesn't matter because anything, there's so many variables that can affect your sleep that, you know, none of these things can be controlled. But it's the behaviours people do afterwards which matter, which teaches the brain a new pattern of sleep. It fragments the sleep drive. Sleep drive's absolutely fundamental. When you understand the sleep drive, light bulbs completely start going off and you really understand it. And why people don't understand it is just beyond me because it's never taught.
I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, it's
ever.
It's so fundamental to sleep, and yet nobody understands it. And yeah.
And if you so an example perhaps was, say you've had a really bad night for 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
You haven't got insomnia.
Yeah.
But then you go, oh, I've had 3 really bad nights. What if I have 4?
Yeah.
What if I have, and then you start to enter the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because your mind is messing with you.
Because
you're focusing on a problem that doesn't exist yet.
And if you can normalise poor quality sleep now and again, that would be so incredibly helpful to people, because if you're going through a stressful time, you're going through a bereavement, that is going to affect the quality of your sleep. But it is the rabbit hole, like you say, where people start changing their behaviours around it because they just don't understand it properly. So they start doing things like waking up late in the day, they start going to bed when they're not sleepy. All the time, people just gradually start extending the amount of time they spend in bed. And then they sleep even worse, and that's when it spirals out of control and they start doing all these ritualistic, obsessive behaviours around it. But really, I'd say insomnia is caused by 4 main things. So it's the brain taking on a new pattern of sleep, it's a sleep drive problem, it's the fight or flight response, and it's the conditioned response of the bed being a place of worry and wakefulness, which is what you certainly experience, and that is so common with people with insomnia. But so, do you want me to break them down one by one?
Yeah.
All of them? Okay. So I like to use analogies when I describe things. So in terms of the brain taking on a new pattern of sleep, so people that go on round the world boat trips, for example, the solo round the world boat trips, they can't sleep for more than 15 minutes at a time, because if they did, the boat's going to sink, they're going to go off course, it's going to be pretty bad news for them. So they would set an alarm every 15 minutes in order to wake themselves up during the night time, which is great when you're on the boat, But what they find is after about a week of doing that, the brain very quickly learns that's the pattern of sleep they want, and the brain will then start waking them up every single 15 minutes without even having to set the alarm. I've actually seen a client who was around the world, did the round the world boat trip, and the brain had learnt that pattern of sleep. When they got home, they were constantly waking up every 15 minutes because that is how adaptable the brain is. So with people with insomnia, it doesn't matter what pattern you've taught the brain, it's going to take it on. So it might be taking ages to fall asleep, it might be waking up early in the morning. Incredibly common with people with insomnia to say 3 o'clock every single morning. I will wake up on the dot 3 o'clock, and that's because they've taught that as a pattern of sleep. So every time they wake up, they look at the clock, they reinforce wakefulness, they become anxious, they become stressed that they're awake, they become annoyed that they're awake, and then the brain then learns, okay, well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's this really threatening, stressful, worrying thing that happens to you. I better make sure that I wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning to respond to this threat, which I'll talk about more later about the fight or flight response. But yeah, the brain taking on a new pattern of sleep is key to insomnia and how it develops. And you can teach the brain whatever pattern you want, and people do it. They don't do it deliberately, but the behaviors people do is what causes it. And as you probably know, because this is how you're sort of developed.
And I know I'm off camera, but I'll jump on camera and we'll speak about mine a bit later. Do men and women get it equally, or are women or men more predisposed? Does menopause for women play a part?
Insomnia doesn't discriminate, so anybody can get insomnia. So children get it, anybody can get insomnia, but it is more common in women and in older women. And I'd say it's probably people with type A personalities have a much higher prevalence of insomnia because they're unwilling to accept poor quality sleep, even a tiny bit of poor quality sleep. So they start making loads of effort to sleep, and it spirals from there. And because they want to fix things, and it's often the trying to fix things and not knowing how to fix things, which is what can kind of cause it to spiral as well. Certainly people going through the menopause, they will experience short-term sleep problems as they're waking up with hot flushes, but short-term sleep problems and poor quality sleep isn't the same as insomnia. It's how you respond to the hot flushes. If you responded really anxious, really stressed, really worried, and it takes you ages to then fall back to sleep again, that's not the menopause causing that. It is the response to it, and that's when it develops into insomnia. So yeah, loads of things can cause short-term sleep problems, quality, but it's insomnia and poor quality sleep is very different. But yeah, it is more prevalent in women. Yeah, certainly.
Can I just ask, when people, whenever you Google anything to do with insomnia, sleep hygiene will be the first thing you see, and it's everywhere. Right, you have your bedroom set at a certain temperature. Go to bed at the exact same time. A whole host of things that you need to do. Is it all just nonsense?
So it's not nonsense, but it is not designed to fix a long-term chronic insomnia problem. And when you try and use it to fix a long-term chronic insomnia problem, it backfires because it just erodes your confidence that you can ever sleep again. So people with insomnia that have already tried having a cooler bedroom, that have already tried stopping drinking caffeine after 3 p.m, and they think, well, every time I do this, it just never seems to work, so there must be something incredibly wrong with me. They go to the doctor, and the doctor will say, oh, have you tried not drinking caffeine after 3 p.m? We've tried it 1,000 times, and it just erodes your confidence that insomnia can be overcome. But that's because insomnia is incredibly misunderstood, because doctors on average receive 1.5 hours sleep medicine training throughout their entire career, and that includes things like sleep apnea, parasomnias, which are unusual sleep disorders, and Yeah, it's such a misunderstood thing. But what you did say about setting yourself a fixed bedtime is complete nonsense, because you cannot sleep unless you are sleepy. And if you set yourself a fixed bedtime, you just go to bed when you're not tired, which actually will bring me on to one of the second major driving factors of insomnia, is the sleep drive. So the brain takes on a new pattern of sleep. That's the number one cause of insomnia. Another is a poor quality fragmented sleep drive. So the only thing that makes you sleep is your sleep drive, and the only thing that builds your sleep drive is wakefulness. So in the same way, the longer it is since we last drunk, the sleepier, but the longer you've been awake for, the sleepier you will feel, and the stronger that drive to be at night time. Now, people with insomnia never feel sleepy. There's a couple of reasons behind that, but real simple way to explain the sleep drive is, say you've got a good sleeper that wakes up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they need 17 hours of wakefulness to produce 7 hours of sleep. They're going to start feeling sleepy 17 hours after their wake time, which is 7 o'clock at midnight. But if that same person wakes up at 10 o'clock instead, they still need that 17 hours of wakefulness to produce their 7 hours of sleep. So it means they're not going to feel sleepy the next night until 3 a.m. So when you understand the sleep drive, you sort of understand why setting yourself a fixed bedtime is complete nonsense, because if you're not feeling sleepy, there's no evidence to say that just by lying down in a dark room, you're going to magically fall asleep. It is, and I wish they would stop it.
I think it's, and it goes on to something that I quickly want to ask you, which is, whenever you Google anything on sleep, you will see 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
That is the recommended amount. And to me, that sounds like everybody should have a size 10 shoe. But for some reason, and even as a child, I have never slept 8 hours.
Yeah.
And because I never needed it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if I needed it, I probably would have slept 8 hours.
Yeah, yeah.
But is it damaging to hear stuff like that when, say, you feel great on 6? Is it damaging to know that, well, actually you should be getting 8?
Yes.
And if you don't, well, what's going to happen to you?
It's very damaging, and I don't know where this comes from, because there are averages. So there's an average, and I don't even like to say what the average, because average doesn't mean anything, because, like, you know, like you said with the shoe size, which you nicked from my book,
welcome,
was 8.5 for men is the average shoe size. And if everyone tried to squeeze themselves into an 8.5, some people are going to have, you know, massive clown feet, and some people are going to be hobbling because their feet aren't going to fit in the shoes. So it is complete nonsense. So some people can need 9 hours of sleep, 6 works for you, 6.5 works for me. And it's really damaging, because people think, well, I need 8 hours of sleep. So because I think I should set myself a fixed bedtime, complete nonsense, I'm going to give myself 8 hours in bed to try and get that 8 hours of sleep. But if you only need 6 hours of sleep, what are you going to do for 2 hours in bed? You're going to spend 2 hours in bed awake. So that might be at the start of the night, that might be in the middle of the night, that might be waking up early, but at some point in the night you're going to be awake for 2 hours, because you cannot get more sleep than the body needs. So it's a really damaging thing to think that everyone needs 8 hours of sleep. So yeah, that wakefulness during the night time brings me on to my third point, which is the fight or flight response as well. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I hate that.
When you say fight, and I know this for myself, but what do you mean when you say fight or flight?
So, as I say, and I'm going to use another analogy for this. So we've got a good sleeper, I'm going to say Catherine. So Catherine is in America, and she's going on a camping trip to a national park. And then she pitched her tent, and because she's got a strong drive to sleep, strong regulated sleep drive, she normally starts feeling sleepy at around about 11 o'clock. So she's just about to drift off to sleep, and then she hears the howl of a wolf next to her tent. So her heart rate, body temperature, adrenaline, cortisol, they basically spike through the roof, because there's something incredibly threatening to her safety, and the brain wants to make her alert, to keep her safe, so she can either fight the wolf, which isn't a good idea, or run away from the wolf, which either way you're going to get nashed. But that's the fight or flight response. So when people have insomnia and they've got such fear around sleep, such fear around not sleeping, such fear around being in bed in the bedroom, which I'm going to get onto a little bit later why that occurs, they get the same physiological response as if they were to have a wolf in their bedroom. So people with insomnia, they're always saying, oh, I feel really hot at night time, I feel boiling hot. Or it feels like I've got a really racing heartbeat and I've just got a racing mind, and this is all the fight or flight response. So this is that feeling there's basically a wolf in the bedroom, and the brain saying there's something incredibly threatening to your safety, do not sleep, I want you to be alert, I want to keep you safe. So a lot of my work is around reducing that anxiety, reducing that stress, reducing that worry around sleep. And there's a load of different techniques I use for that. But with you, a lot of the stuff that I would usually teach, I didn't actually use any of it, because everyone responds differently to it. So I need to constantly change and adapt how I do things. But yeah, I did change quite a few things.
Yeah, because I think with me, because I'm quite type 1.
Yeah.
With the way that I think.
Yeah.
That, like, a good example would be writing things down for me wasn't the best idea. Not focusing on something for me worked much better in terms of just trying to distract my mind from something that was already preoccupied with, sleep. Now I know better. Yeah. But at the time I didn't, and all I wanted to do and read and look at and think about was not sleeping. Yeah. And the more I read it and studied it, the worse it got. Yeah. Because I was just horrified, and everything I did was, I'm gonna spend the next 4 hours looking at YouTube videos and horrify myself even more. And and that was a ridiculous thing to do, but I would imagine incredibly common for somebody who's not sleeping. Yeah. I'm going to Google it, because Google never lies. Yeah.
It was, I enjoyed actually our work. It was good. You were different, but you probably get that a lot.
That was good. So if you could give 3 bits of advice, 3 tips that people can take action with today in order to improve their quality of sleep, what would they be?
So the most important thing is to get up at the same time every single day. So that covers the sleep drive, which I was talking about earlier, just anchoring that body clock, anchoring that wake time, so that the brain knows when to feel sleepy the next night. That's not going to fix someone who's got a lot of worry and stress around their sleep, but just for a huge amount of people. And you don't need to do it ritualistically, you don't need to do it obsessively, because good sleepers and normal sleepers, they don't always get up at the same time every single day. But just knowing, having an awareness of why it's so important is the first step. So setting, anchoring that wake time, incredibly important.
I think it is the most, for me, it is one of the most beneficial things I can do. Is I know what time I'm going to get up, and I don't care that I don't have a lie in, because I feel good. And for me it takes stress away, because I just love it. It is the most simplistic, ridiculous thing ever. Why don't you get up tomorrow at 8 o'clock and stick to that time, or 6 a.m. or whatever it is.
It doesn't matter, for whatever life. Time. People go, oh, well, I'm not going to become, just as long as it's regular and it works for you. It's fine. It works really well, and it is the most important piece of advice I can give.
And it's ridiculously simplistic, but you would never think of it, because if you are not sleeping well, you don't want to get up when the alarm goes, because you've probably just gone to sleep. You want to stay in bed for another 4 or 5 hours.
And so that's the trick. It's about, when I'm working with people, shifting that focus away from trying to get as much sleep as they possibly can in the short term, to creating new behaviours and habits in order to sleep well over long term. And I'm also tackling the anxiety, stress and worry around sleep as well. But that is the trick of doing that. Not going, so going to bed when you can't keep your eyes open, sleep, you're not setting yourself a fixed bedtime. Incredibly helpful. People with insomnia never feel sleepy, but that's the fight or flight response, and which I haven't talked about, the conditioned response of the bed being a place of worry and wakefulness, which causes that. But when people work with me, very quickly they get that sleepy feeling back.
And with the sleepy, so just to be clear, go to bed when you are sleepy is different from going to bed when you're tired. So sleepy is when you know your eyes are going to close. Yeah,
so tiredness and sleepiness is not the same thing. So you can be tired from being on the internet all day, or tired. So I suppose fatigue and sleepiness are not the same. So you can have that sort of wired feeling like you've had loads of coffee. That's fatigue. Sleepiness is when, you can't keep your eyes open and you're drifting off, you feel calm, you feel peaceful. That's sleepiness. And people with insomnia, they just never get that sleepy feeling because there's so much background anxiety. I mean, they do get, because every time they do sleep, that's because they're sleepy. So people with insomnia, they never, you won't meet someone that say, I literally haven't slept for 10 years. Occasionally you meet that person, and that's not insomnia. That's called one sec, that's not insomnia. That is called paradoxical insomnia, which is a different sleep disorder, but that's incredibly rare and I won't go into that. But yeah, people with insomnia, every time they slept, it's because they've had that drive to sleep. But because their sleep drive is so unregulated, because the pattern of sleep is so unregulated, it's just never consistent and it's never regular. But
I found with myself that my sleep drive would be strongest during the day, because nighttime I would just suddenly spring to life because of the fight or flight. In the day I wasn't concerned. I was tired in the day. I could go to sleep in the day because I wasn't stressed the way I would be at night. And the night would come by and I'd be like, ta-da! Suddenly I've just been powered up with electricity and I'm ready to go for another 4 hours.
Yeah, so it is the fight or flight at play, and it's also the intention as well. So in the daytime, you're trying to stay awake, so you want to be awake. So wakefulness isn't something that's undesirable. When you're in bed at night, suddenly wakefulness is incredibly undesirable because you want to sleep, and that shift in intent as well as the fight or flight is what is driving that as well. But
I don't know if I stole this from you, so I probably did, but it's great for me. So a good example would be when I'm watching telly and it's relatively late at night, I am trying to stay awake because I'm not trying to go to sleep, right? So I'm trying to stay awake to watch this film, and I'm finding it difficult. I'd never thought of it before in ever. But when I'm sat down watching telly, it's because I'm trying to stay awake. It is this. I know it sounds mental, but it's
and it is the effort around sleep. It is so much, and everything is around effort. All these things you're doing to avoid. All these avoidance sleep efforts, which I call them, so not drinking alcohol, not drinking caffeine, not doing this, not doing that. Those are sleep efforts. All the things you're doing before bed to make yourself sleep, the yoga, the meditation, which are fine. There's nothing wrong with doing these things, but when you're doing them with the intention of making yourself sleep, that's when they become problematic. So it is effort, and it's a funny thing because 5-year-olds, they know how to sleep. Everyone's born with that ability to sleep. It's the things that people learn afterwards, which is what cause insomnia or perpetuate insomnia over the long run. But the less effort, once you fix your sleep pattern and dealt with the anxiety, stress and worried about it and got your good sleep patterns in place, then once the less effort you make to sleep, the better you will sleep at night. So where are we up to? So we've done 2 so far, haven't we?
Set a time to get up. And
go to bed when sleepy. Very good. And it kind of ties in with the first 2, which is to spend less time in bed. And if we go back to the 8-hour sleep myth, the the best way to teach the brain a new pattern of sleep is to spend less time in bed. It doesn't mean you sleep less, it just means the quality of your sleep massively improves. And that's where you want to shift your focus, to get in good sleep quality rather than sleep quantity. The quantity will come once you fix your sleep quality, but to get better sleep quality, the less time you spend in bed, the better you will sleep, which is incredibly counterintuitive, and no one can get their head around it because there aren't many things that apply to. So if you think language learning, learning an instrument, normally the more time you spend it, the more you tried it, the better you get at it. So to shift that focus away from the less effort you make, the less time you spend at it, the better your sleep, is incredibly hard for people to do. But once they understand sleep and understand how sleep works, that they then do go down, they can then take that on board. But yeah, spending less time in bed, incredibly helpful.
So, insomnia, can it be cured?
I mean, yes, because I had it for 20 years, and you know, I try not to speak too much about, you know, how bad mine was and everything, but from what it kind of, yeah, I had it pretty bad. It's not a competition, but I had it for 20 years, and there were nights and weeks where I just completely lost hope. But that's because I've been doing all the wrong stuff, because I've just been on the internet researching sleep hygiene and learning about kiwi fruit and warm baths and all the other nonsense that Michael Mosley, who has no business to talk about sleep, is telling you to do. And so I've helped clients that have had it for decades, and within, you know, a few months,
people are better.
Yeah, and I'm not talking slightly better. It's something that you can go on to sleep like a normal sleeper. Once you've built that pattern of sleep, once you've dealt with the anxiety, stress and worry around it, then you go on to sleep like a normal sleeper. And a normal sleeper is really someone that just pays no attention to their sleep whatsoever, which is lovely when you get to that stage, when you're just not focusing on it, when you're not thinking about it, and you just go to bed. And then the bed, instead of being this horrible place you don't want to be in, is a place you look forward to going to, a place that's incredibly relaxing. Just have what everyone else has got. You know, let's sleep well. And I've helped thousands of people with the books, with the one-to-ones, with the YouTube channel. People had it for decades.
So how can people find you? Give us your best.
So the book, you know, fantastic book, amazing. Actually, I've got a little copy here. Isn't this?
What a coincidence.
There it is. You Can Sleep Too is the book. Whether or not it will be enough to get you all the way to the end, you found that you had to go see me one-to-one, because everyone's different, and it's just lovely to be able to chat to someone and get all your questions answered, and then have that advice tailored to you, because I can't cover everything in a book, because everyone's different. And with you, there were things in the book I thought that's not going to work for you, and so I didn't have you doing that. But the book is a fantastic first step. My YouTube channel, which is called Insomnia Talks, are you going to put the links in the description for that?
Everybody will be able to link to that, subscribe, and get help.
That's a fledgling YouTube channel at the moment.
But it's a very helpful one, because prior to contacting you, I had already subscribed and was watching some of the videos. So it's an incredibly good channel with huge amounts of information that don't leave you terrified when you're trying to go to sleep.
Oh, so much on there. And people, they just need to... So many videos are being created of people that don't understand it. They've obviously never had insomnia.
No.
And you listen to them, and it makes it worse, because it makes you obsess and worry around sleep. And it does frustrate me that they've got 1 million views.
I think it's horrifying, because if you have never ever had a problem going to sleep, then any information you're giving somebody, no matter how good it may be to a normal sleeper, with somebody with a sleeping problem, it can make things 10 times worse. And make you worry. Oh, I'm going to have a health issue. I'm going to die early.
And that all that is
horrifying
nonsense.
things.
None of that's true. So all of this stuff. So you can't run studies where you have to prove that insomnia causes any long-term health concern. You need to have 40 people, 1,000 people, give 500 of them insomnia for the rest of their life, which is impossible.
Just like that.
Just give them insomnia. So they've all got to start as normal sleepers. Give 500 of them insomnia. Give 500 of them perfect sleep for the rest of their life. And then follow these two groups for 40 years to see whether or not one group has a higher prevalence of a certain health concern. And that's all the data is that's out there. And correlation is not causation. And all of this stuff is just so damaging to sleep. Anything that creates that fear, anything that creates more effort, I just wish people would stay off it if they don't understand it. But
Okay, so just to reiterate, before I jump in and talk about nonsense, subscribe to the YouTube channel because it's very helpful. The book, there's also the audiobook version, which is what I purchased. And of course there's the one-on-ones.
One-to-ones. I mean, that's going to be, if you've had it a long time and it's something that has, really chipped away at your life, deal with it.
And all the information on Joseph will be in the description bar, so you can check out the channel, the books, and of course, the one-on-ones.
One-on-ones,
Thank you. All right, so I didn't have any sleep issues pretty much until 24, 25, when a doctor put me on amitriptyline. And that was basically a misdiagnosis for a bladder complaint that was getting me up in the night. But once I'd taken that glorious tablet, within half an hour, I wanted to go to sleep. And of course, the next day, I felt like absolute death from the hangover of this pill, right? And over the course of years on it, 15, actually probably 17 years on it, with my age now, the dose increased to sort of 50 milligrams, which is still a low dose. I think I've seen people on 200. So I guess I was still on a low dose, but it was high for my threshold. And that's when the sleep issues came. And with it came something called hypnic jerks, which I'd never, ever heard of in my life until I had one. And I didn't know at the time what it was either. And for me, I would feel them in my legs and my chest. So I would be jolted awake like a lightning bolt had hit me. And I would be grabbing my chest thinking, oh my God, what's happening? I'm dying. And that's when I started to have trouble with sleep. Because once I'd had one, well, then I needed to have two. And if I had two, well, I think 20 in a row would be a fun thing to have before I go to sleep. And because I was freaked out about them, that made them worse. And the worse they got, the more I thought about them, the more I researched them. And I ended up going into, just a spiral of being horrified and terrified of going to sleep because I was scared I was going to get these hypnic jerks. And I was still on amitriptyline because it's just a joy to be on. And what would happen is I never slept in the day for whatever reason. My mind, I guess, always knew it wasn't good for me to go to sleep in the day. But whenever I tried, I would get this electricity noise in my mind. And I paid no attention to it other than it being a warning, please don't sleep in the day, your body doesn't like it. And I never paid any attention to it until I decided to Google it. And it was at that point that my whole body just shut down. Even though it wasn't harmful to me, it was annoying because sometimes I'd like to go to sleep in the day. But the name of it is called exploding head syndrome.
And I wish they wouldn't call it that.
It's a horrible name. It's a terrifying name. And I knew deep down inside it was a form of a hypnic jerk, just in the brain. And it was the transition between trying to go to sleep and as you are, I guess, entering sleep, right? But then I Googled it and there was this name and I could no longer get the name out of my head. So I decided that what I would do is I would stop the amitriptyline just like that, and that would be the end of my trouble. And that's when I stopped sleeping. So I remember getting 3 hours the first night because I had a clock right next to me, so I made sure that I knew.
You were clock watching, which I got help you get rid of that.
And it made the night go so much quicker. Just looking at the clock all night long. Second night I had 2 hours, and then I didn't sleep at all. And it was at that point that I started to go downhill really quickly in terms of how I was thinking. I'm never going to get better. I'm going to have this for the rest of my life. There's all these problems with my sleep, these hypnic jerks, and these noises in my head when I'm trying to go to sleep, and it just became a nightmare because not only was I not sleeping, but I was afraid to try to sleep because I didn't want to experience these noises in my head. And then I'd go on Google, and that just made it worse because Google inherently, you type in the word headache and cancer comes up on the screen as the first thing. So it was just a spiral of misery of trying to sort something that was relatively easy to sort, but I was so hyper aroused by everything I was reading and thinking, and so aware of the time and how long I was going to sleep for, and it just wasn't enough. Didn't matter if I felt okay, it wasn't enough. And then I found you. And I found your book. So I was Googling insomnia cures, insomnia, please help, I need help, anything to do with insomnia. And I saw your book, and I saw the reviews on it, and they're all verified reviews. So the first thing I did was order it because I wanted to listen to it in the car. So I ordered it on audiobook. And what I found helpful with me and the way that my brain works is I like a story, but I really need a bullet point. I need something to follow that will give a breakdown of, let's start here, and we'll work in each chapter. We add bits and pieces in, right? That worked really well for me because it gave me something that was actionable to do. And then I contacted you, I would imagine a few weeks after the book, and to start one-on-one consultations, because mine just wasn't this sleep issue in terms of not getting to sleep, which was a really big issue, but mine was also the fact that I was getting this exploding head syndrome and the anxiety around that bloody noise that likes to tingle whenever you're tired at night. Do you speak to a lot of people that have these kind of issues with hypnic jerks or exploding head syndrome? That they're actually quite common.
So good sleepers, they're going to be having hypnic jerks. If they were to have them in a sleep lab, they'd be having all these things. It's just that because they've not got this attention and this hyper focus on sleep, they just don't remember it. It's just a normal thing that's happening, but they're not so focused on it. It's not something threatening to them, it's not something worrying to them. So it's a non-event, and it's something that they don't even register or even remember that they're doing it. But if they were to look at the data from the lab, this is a normal thing to have. But it is that I'm not going to say it's create. What you focus on, you certainly attract, and just that focus and all that attention you were putting on it was just driving it.
And to me, before I Googled it, this was not a threatening issue. I only ever experienced them in the afternoon if I tried to sleep. Never ever at night, right? So this wasn't a threat to me until I Googled it, or until the thought entered my mind, I wonder if I could have these at night. And it was, all I needed to do was put a little tiny seed in there for it to just explode into something that it wasn't ever throughout all those years of having them sporadically, just by being ridiculous with my own mind and thinking, silly thoughts. Well, I wonder what could happen if I thought about this a lot. And then suddenly you think about it a lot.
getting you to do nothing was quite a hard thing. Getting you to detach from it and let go of it, and then they go away.
But you don't. I think you don't want to let. You want to let go, but there's a part of you that likes to be in control of. And as you said, for me, it was do nothing as best you can. That's what works best for me. The number one thing that helped me with sleep was set your alarm, and I love doing that. Even though I'm up at a certain time every day, it's great for me. And the other thing was not knowing what time it was that I went to bed. I may have guessed. I may be able to kind of guess, but it was. I didn't have my phone next to me, so I would be on my phone all night long prior. All night long, and now I don't have the phone from 10 o'clock at night. So, and there is no clock on the telly. So whatever I'm watching, I'm no longer aware necessarily of what time I'm going to sleep. But I know I'm getting enough sleep, and the sleep I'm getting now is way different to what it was on the tablet. Because then I was being put to sleep, and now I'm going to sleep because I'm tired. And I'd never experienced that in all the years I've been on amitriptyline. I've never sat here, with my eyes nodding off and my head nodding off.
See, that's a good thing. People are afraid of that. They go, I can't be sleepy. But you want sleepiness. Sleepiness is a great thing, and people are kind of afraid of it. But that's a really good sign that you're having that. And you were going, I sometimes fall asleep on the sofa. Isn't that a dreadful thing? I fall asleep on the sofa. Well, it's
and also whether I'm falling asleep here, which is often, or I'm just going straight to bed. I am going to sleep. Without, being aware of it. I know I'm tired now, and I'm also not waking up in the morning feeling like I've been drugged, because I'm no longer on a drug that's making me feel absolutely horrific. And I can't remember the last time that I felt, well, now I feel completely normal. When I wake up in the morning, I do not feel bone tired all day long. I might feel for the first half an hour like, where am I? But that's a normal part of going from being asleep to sort of waking up.
I'm sluggish in the morning.
It's a weird thing. And 17 years on a tablet to no longer, it's the weirdest feeling. To have a normal amount of sleep for me, and I mentioned earlier on, I don't get 8 hours. I've never had 8 hours in my life. I'm much better. There's no hour really, because I do still track things, so I can see how much I'm getting and how little. But all of it seems about right. I can get 5 hours some nights and feel absolutely amazing, and other nights I can get 7.5. But I feel really good on all of those hours of sleep.
The body would get, once you've not got that anxiety, stress and worry, the body would get the sleep it needs. So as long as you sort of stay out of its way, it's going to do its thing. So when people are obsessing about, sleep duration, if you're waking up and you're feeling refreshed and you're feeling good, that's all that matters. So it really doesn't matter. And some nights you're not going to get, if you can normalise occasionally not sleeping as well as you would have liked, and just carry on the next day and just have a fantastic day, you just get better quality sleep the next night. But as long as you listen to the body and go to bed when you feel sleepy and allow that to happen, and you don't try and control it and think, isn't that dreadful that I slept really, not as well as I would have liked last night. Just carry on and know that's normal. I understand sleep incredibly well, and I still get poor nights of sleep and don't have perfect sleep all the time.
Because everybody does.
Everyone does.
And that's again why I loved, and I get up at the same time. And even in the beginning, where I was just wired the whole time, and just completely wired at night, right? So I'm like this in the day because I'm so tired, but then at night I've just done nothing but shots of coffee all night long, So I'm completely wired. But no matter how little sleep I got, I woke up at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And after 2 nights of that, that's when the magic starts happening, because now I've got a true sleep drive. I mean, I'm starting to feel what it's like to feel truly tired at night, because I'm doing these really small little things in the day. I'm going to get up at the same time, and it's having this effect where I'm building upon this sleep drive.
Yeah, so people think insomnia is tackled at night time. It's not tackled at night, it's tackled the second you wake up in the morning. So the better quality day you can have, the better quality sleep you can have at night. So if you can shift that focus away from trying to sleep at night time and doing these really reactionary things, the half an hour before bedtime, and just focus on having a great quality day, you'll get that great quality sleep at night. Yeah.
And I did all the really ritualistic things, different to other people perhaps, but I was still doing them. I was still reading about them, and I was still looking for, well, what about this herb? I reckon this will work. And never realizing that you can't be put to sleep. You have to go to sleep, because your body needs to go to sleep naturally, not be pushed into a coma. And that is not restorative sleep.
And all these herbs and things, they just sort of go, okay, well, I've got something wrong with my brain. I need this herb which increases dopamine. That means I must have a dopamine problem. Or this one increases, so I must have a serotonin problem. Chipping away at your innate ability to sleep. I had a wicker basket. In my videos on YouTube, I used to have them in the background. It was probably 50 supplements. I probably spent £3,000 on supplements. Probably more, over 20 years. I could have bought a house in the amount of supplements I bought. It was a cocktail every night.
It's desperation to... And also it's looking outside, isn't it? For something to fix you. Because you're broken. Something has to fix you. When really there is nothing broken. It's just your mind being absolute nonsense. Because your mind's just going haywire. Because you're reading and doing all these things that are creating this shitty sort of atmosphere of staying awake. It's weird, isn't it?
See, everything you say, I just hear so. It's just so. When everyone probably watching this now is going to go, I do that, and they think that their insomnia is incredibly unique, and then they'll just be hearing this and go, oh, Joe was doing those things, you're doing those things, everyone's doing the same patterns, and they might vary, but the intention behind them and the effort behind them and the behaviours, but just always the same. It's just
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's just no one.
And I think so I don't want to say that I overcame this within 10 days or anything like that, but I started to sleep normally very quickly after we started working together, and that was because the program for me was tailored towards me and my personality and what would work best for my brain.
I went off book with you, so I had my book and I went, that's not gonna do it for you. I went completely out. I just thought, but
it worked. It worked for me because that's what I needed to do in order to calm my brain, because all I needed to do was calm the brain, and then everything would sort of
your behaviours were pretty, they weren't too bad, there are a few things I thought, just real simple, but it's weird, you probably knew that it wasn't helpful to you, but you just need someone to point that out and just make you aware of it, and then you went, oh yeah, that's probably not helpful. And I think just being given permission to not do that and to let go of it was just incredibly helpful, because before, if you don't know that it's because if you've been taught that this is going to help you and actually it's not, and then you just get someone actually say, no, this been shown that right path. It's good. Happy days.
Thank you so much, mate. Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.